Hi, let's talk about Diablo. Earlier this year, Blizzard held the annual Darkening of Tristram event in Diablo III. I didn't bother checking it out in 2017 or 2018, but this year I was curious what it would be like to experience a 2012 game that I don't think is very interesting, that is, Diablo III, imitating a 1996 game that I do think is very interesting, Diablo 1. For those who don't know, the Darkening of Tristram basically has your character travel back in time and play through the events of the original game. A graphics filter is applied to make the game look more reminiscent of the original, and other little tricks are implemented as well. For instance, while your character moves at their normal speed, they use their walking animation rather than their running animation because, to paraphrase Tom Hanks, there's no running in Diablo. However, what really stirred up my thoughts and feelings about the original Diablo while playing the Darkening of Tristram in Diablo 3 was the music. Now, I can't recall in any detail a single piece of music from Diablo 3. It's standard, it's conventional, it's fine, I guess, but it's just not memorable. On the other hand, the original Diablo has one of the most memorable video game scores of all time, and it owes a great deal of its memorability to just how unconventional it is. The town theme is haunting and melancholy, with just a hint of some sense of hope trying to pierce through the impenetrable gray clouds. It has a quality that I don't know quite how to explain or quite how it was achieved, but to me it doesn't sound like something that was composed in the 1990s and then recorded in a music studio. It sounds like something that I imagine a raggedy, struggling musical troupe centuries ago might have played as they drove their rickety old wagon across European countrysides, from one gloomy, drought-stricken village to the next. By happy coincidence, the original Diablo was re-released on GOG as I was thinking about and working on this video, so I was able to actually go back and play some of it, and see if the feelings that the Darkening of Tristram sparked were just the result of nostalgia rather than a real reflection of Diablo's greatness. But they weren't. The music in the dungeons themselves is as remarkable as that in the mournful little village of Tristram. Sometimes I'm not even clear if what I'm hearing is meant to be music or meant to be diegetic sound, the horrifying wails and otherworldly laughter of demons rising up from the depths below. In a way, it made me think of Darkest Dungeon, a 2016 game in which your character's sanity is frayed by the horrors they face on their adventures.
And their screams will echo amidst the pitiless cyclopean snow.
In Diablo, the sanity of your character is not a gameplay mechanic, but as the player, I constantly feel the effects of the suffocating atmosphere and the horrifying, otherworldly sounds on the soundtrack. In Diablo, your character rarely speaks, but they too seem appropriately daunted by the thought of what awaits them in the shadowy depths.
The sanctity of this place has been fouled.
Now, let's contrast this with Diablo 3. In D3, you play as the Nephilim, a descendant of angels and demons, a being of extraordinary power, and your character is anything but daunted by the demonic hordes they face. If anything, they often seem boastful and cocky.
You winced against my blows.
And you may even have a companion with you who constantly strokes your ego as you strike down the minions of Diablo.
A powerful enemy we have laid low.
This game has no desire to make you uncomfortable or fearful. On the contrary, it is a power fantasy through and through, one which wants you to feel dominant and secure in your ability to vanquish evil. We can see this distinction between the two games clearly, not just in their differing tone, but also in their approach to difficulty. In Diablo 3, playing on the default starting difficulty, most players can smoothly progress through the entire campaign, and may even wish to bump up the difficulty when they find that things are too easy. It's a difficulty curve with no bumps, no hiccups, just a pleasant, innocuous glide from start to finish. In the original Diablo, you only get as far as level 2 of the dungeons beneath Tristram before you encounter the Butcher, a fearsome figure who visited certain death on most Diablo players when they first encountered him. As a result of the Butcher being such a roadblock, people remember him. People have stories about him. Diablo 3's butter-smooth difficulty curve might be what passes for good design in some people's minds today, but it absolutely doesn't allow for challenges like this. I mean, nobody really has memories of finally overcoming the Skeleton King or the Butcher himself or any other boss in Diablo 3, because Diablo 3's entire design approach is about being as player-friendly and frictionless as possible. But friction can be good. Friction can create character. Friction can be what makes a game distinct and memorable. I mean, look at this footage of me playing Diablo. I keep missing my shots. I miss so many shots. Is that frustrating? Maybe, I guess, but it feels appropriate. And it's definitely more interesting than Diablo 3, in which I can't really miss unless I do it on purpose. Power fantasies can be kind of boring, can't they? Aesthetics also have a huge part to play here. Diablo 3 looks like a typical game. I mean, it looks like it was made in a well-lit office where people have meetings and have funny nicknames for each other. And of course I want games to be made in comfortable, well-lit offices, but I don't always want games to feel like they were made in comfortable, well-lit offices. Because of the way it looks and sounds, Diablo doesn't really feel to me like it was made in an office at all. It feels more like the manifestation of a spell cast by a reclusive circle of druids in the Dark Ages as a way of binding some ancient evil. A spell that lingered throughout the centuries, only to finally take form on my computer here today. Here's the opening to the original Diablo. It still provokes in me a deep feeling of desolation. It sets me up to enter the town of Tristram, a place permeated by sadness and gloom. And some of that effectiveness is due to what we might today call the lower quality of the graphics. In much the same way that a grungy, low-budget horror film like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre can make me feel isolated and endangered in a way that a big-budget horror film, no matter how scary it is, ever can. There's so much money visible on the screen in Diablo 3's cutscenes that I can't feel genuinely unsettled by them in the way I can by the original. Now, of course, Diablo 3 doesn't have to do what its predecessors did. In fact, I'd rather that sequels do something significantly different than their predecessors. It's just that I don't know what Diablo 3 is doing. Its tone and aesthetic don't have much of an impact at all. The game seems primarily interested in just being a smooth loot shower, a game that tries to keep us coming back for more by tapping into that part of our brain that is drawn to gambling and random chance. And it may well succeed at that, but it isn't always inherently good when a game succeeds at what it sets out to do. We also have to ask ourselves what it is that it's trying to do. Anyway, at this point in Diablo 3, my monk character is so wildly powerful that I can charge through hordes of enemies while hardly ever even lifting a finger myself, as my mystic allies run around obliterating every demon who stands in my way. Is this what's considered a good endgame? Giving players the chance to spend dozens and dozens of hours being showered with little rewards in return for their time until they ultimately attain unbridled destructive power? Why do we consider this an inherently good thing? Games that try to prolong their hold on your life almost indefinitely. I mean, really, is this what we want from our games? Smooth experiences that go down easy, like a beer that's very drinkable but doesn't have much real character? Don't we want texture? Don't we want rough edges? The word polish has been overused forever in game reviews, and it's always been considered a good thing. This game lacks polish. This game is really polished. Well, most would agree that by today's standards, Diablo 3 is far more polished than Diablo, and I really don't think that's a good thing. Thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing here, please click that subscribe button, and I'll be back with another video fairly soon. See you then.